Hey, fellow late 20s to early mid 30s millennials. If you haven't stopped listening to pop punk or any genre of punk since you were a teenager, or if me just saying the bands Blink 182, All Time Low, All American Rejects, the story so far floods your memories with nostalgia, then you are the person we're trying to reach. My name's Colton, but some of my friends call me Colt, but you'll hear more about me and the show's co host Tino in a bit. Before we get into this episode, I want to preface with a few things. The audio for this week isn't top notch. We acknowledge and own that. New equipment, technical difficulties, there's a lot of learning to do. So please know that the rest of the episodes will sound a lot better. This week is more of an introductory episode, so things will probably be done differently than the rest. As I'm going through and editing, I'm realized that I have a lot of footage and photos from some of the endeavors that we had in the past. So throughout the episode, you'll hear this sound, which will signal a time travel to present day and then going back to the recording. So if you're listening to this via audio, awesome. We'll also have a video version of this available where I've actually spliced in some of the old photos. So enjoy that if you're watching. But without further ado, let's jump into the episode. This is the Pop Punk Power Hour. My name is Colton Easton.
My name's Tino Farah.
And what we want to do for this podcast is a loosely structured podcast on basically the whole genre of pop punk. And it's a genre that's very near and dear to our hearts. So how do we kind of get started into this?
Maybe we should, well, let's preface where the show came from originally, I guess, because the show, this is the second iteration of this show, and the first version of it was a school project that I did last August, probably like a year ago right now,
About that.
of when we're recording. It was just a school project that I did. It was a radio show that was also live streamed on Twitch, about my love for pop punk and my friends' love for pop punk. Kiki, would you stop eating the plant? And also our love for video games as well. That was another aspect that was part of the show as well. But we'll dive a little bit more into how that's going to play a factor later. But yeah, I think we both agree that of the 3 episodes of that we did, our episode was both of our favorites
And the longest.
and also
I think
the
that was
longest.
it. That was mainly it.
And we both kind of have this feeling of like we could talk about this forever, and we both have a lot of musical friends, and we just want to talk about the genre because it's kind of rebirthed.
It is rebirthed, and yeah, no, I really enjoyed going on that podcast or the station, the radio, when you had me, and it was such a cool idea, and it was really awesome to kind of actually sit down and like think about, because like I had some things prepared of what I wanted to say, but really it was just like, oh, this is a conversation that could keep going forever.
As the interviewer at the time, you didn't know what I was going to ask you. So
Had no idea.
you could prepare whatever you want, and I could just turn it whatever way I wanted.
Exactly. So this is what, again, our envision for the show is that it's going to be everything to do with the history of where it's at now. Hopefully some interviews down the road. We can have some cool people there. Mm-hmm. But what's our relationship?
Our relationship is, well, I guess our relationship started when we worked together. I worked at a golf course here I guess we're in Surrey right now. I worked at a golf course in Pitt Meadows called Swanisette Bay Resort and Country Club with your cousin, Kale. Mm-hmm. And I think you got the job there via Kale. I mean, either way.
Yeah, him and my dad were volunteering.
That's right. I've heard your dad worked there too. So yeah, I knew everyone in your family before I met you.
Right.
Then yeah, Colton, you got a job there, and we just like, I don't know, clicked.
Instant best buds.
Yeah, and like I was already like pals with Kale just from working with him, so like that was my in with you, and then yeah, it was from that point on, like we've been in bands together ever since. We've just kind of, I don't know, we've just kind of like never left each other's lives. No. It's like, I don't know, I could go like a year without seeing you, but then like I'll see you and everything is normal again. So
yeah, no, it was cool. I think it was we played Taylor Swift music a lot in the basement. We had like the old iPod dock, and I would consistently play Taylor Swift. And I mean, still, literally every day I think about how good that job was.
Yeah, just hanging out in the sun with their friends. That was the best job ever.
But from there, obviously, like we met and we knew that we both were really into music. I think, were we in high school at the time? I can't remember. Or like just out.
Yeah, I mean, like I started there when I was in grade 11, so grade 11 or 12.
Okay, and then your school had a really cool like music program.
School of Rock, baby.
Right? Literally School of Rock. That's so cool. Like we had soccer. So
relax, Greg.
Yeah.
Who plays soccer?
And so you were talking about that. And I was like, oh, that was really cool. So you were the front man, right?
Of my grade 12 band, Rock Bottom Royalty.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And you were there. How long were you guys a band for?
Okay,
you were like a band because of the program?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like we always talked about, it was like one of the things after we graduated where whenever we would see each other at parties, we'd be like, man, we got to get a practice going. And then all of a sudden it's like 6 months later and somebody says like, we got to get a practice going. And it's like, are we a band?
Yeah.
No, we're not a band.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. And then that kind of grew. And then I also had a background in music too. So I started playing drums when I was grade 4. I think like around 8 years old.
I didn't know it was when you were that young.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I know. And I'm still not that good. But I wanted to take music lessons. So drums was cool. I was music lessons for a little bit. And then just a lot of it mainly was just self-taught. So come grade 8, my cousin, Kale, right, one of my bigger inspirations for this genre and everything that we're getting into, was also in a band. He was 4 years older than me. So I was in grade 8, he was in grade 12, like unheard of for those two ages.
So sick for you,
interact, though. Right? So, he told the two other people in the band that I drum. So we're like, okay, like let's come in for a jam, right? The coolest place to have, number one, a band with, but like the venue to practice in was in an airport hangar.
What?
In Pitt Meadows.
I've never heard any of this before. That's so sick.
So they were I was at just like, I don't know, like 10 some odd minutes away.
You're doxing yourself.
15 minutes, yeah. But so they would come in their car to pick me up for band practice, and sometimes I'd skip school to go there. So one of the guys' dads was a pilot and like had his own airport hangar and like rented it out and like actually had lived inside there. So like inside this like other area was this like huge area that just like all the music stuff was there. So it was so cool just to do that.
That's unreal.
So I went over there for the first time and we wrote a song like that day.
Yeah.
Like, they just had something new. I was on the drums, and so like after that they're like, do you want to be in the band? I'm like, yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I'm actually literally digitized, because this was 2008. Not a lot of digital stuff out there. I still had a film camera. So I just finished actually digitizing like one of the concerts that we played. So it's on.
No way.
Maybe I'll splice a little bit into the video.
Unreal.
So that was a lot of fun. And then people left, you got to do your own thing after you graduate, right? And then, so that's after, you and I met, and then, we're like, you were in a band? I was in a band. We should be in a band. That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, more or less. And it started with, this is my favorite story to tell. When that time that me, you, and Kale went, so this is before we like actually made a band. When me, you, and Kale jammed together one time, and we decided like we wanted to cover. It always comes back to Taylor Swift. We wanted to cover Taylor Swift, so we decided that Dear John was the way to go. But for some reason, we decided to rewrite it so it was from the male's perspective. And the only name that fits, or that we thought
that would rhyme with John, right?
was Donna. So now it's like anytime I hear Dear John by Taylor Swift, I scream Donna instead of John. But anyways, then a few years later, more in line with your timeline, we knew some mutual people that played some instruments, and I was kind of involved with I forget what that company was called that was like getting us shows Like,
I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but they were a really shitty company, whatever they were called. I wish that I could remember what their name was.
bad.
They were horrendous, but they were like easy to book shows with, and they were always downtown or whatever. So we just hooked up with a couple of our mutual friends. We decided, like, I don't know, what was our first band name?
Don't remember.
Don't remember either.
Don't remember. But yeah, so you took over songs from Rock Bottom Royalty.
That's right.
Into here.
That's right.
So you kind of we had a couple like songs in the tank ready to go.
Yeah.
Because that was you and Chris, right?
Yeah, Chris Bork, who was also on the original. He was the first guest on the original show, on the original
Yes.
Pop Punk Power Hour.
Yeah.
And then your cousin Alan played bass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stepbrother.
Sorry, what?
At
You
the
guys are
time.
stepbrothers, or were stepbrothers?
You knew this.
I thought you were cousins. I thought you.
No,
What?
you knew this. Come on.
I thought you guys were cousins. What?
No. What the fuck? No.
Okay. Wow, I'm learning something new. This entire time, I thought you guys were cousins. Okay.
No. Kale, cousin. Alan,
I knew that.
stepbrother, but not anymore.
Didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, he played bass.
Yeah. So Alan played bass. And then, yeah, we would practice in my dad's garage. And yeah, we
We
only.
also practiced at Alan's too for a bit.
That's right. Yeah, because he had a way better setup than
Yeah.
what we had. I forgot about that. And we had like a full drum kit there
Yeah.
and stuff, which was sick. And we even recorded some stuff.
Yes. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So through the shows, like we played a couple good shows. I remember our first show was terrible because I had my electric kit. I didn't have a real drum set. I had an electric drum set.
That was also
and-
pre-Alan.
Yeah. So it was just three of us at the time. We booked a show. It's like a battle of the bands, and we're there, but we're the last band to play.
We're talking like past midnight.
Yeah, I think it was past midnight where we played, and I still had friends who came out and saw it. It was very nice.
Yep.
But yeah, it sucked because I had a $1,000 electric drum set, which in that is like, it's not like, that's low tier, right? So you have to plug all these cables into the amplifier, and it's not good. It's like electric kits are good for house things. Performance, not so much.
It looked hilarious.
Yeah,
though.
yeah. I didn't like the people could see my legs. So yeah, that was bad, but we still keep using that same agency. Then we had more people, so we sounded a little bit better. And then after one of the shows, we were literally packing up, and then somebody was just like, "Hey, you guys sounded really good." We're like, "Oh, thanks."
Can I pause right
Yeah.
there, because my perspective of the story I think is cooler than somebody just like coming up. So
okay.
because you were elsewhere and I was still like, you might have taken something down or whatever.
Yeah.
Like when you originally talked to this woman that you were talking to, you weren't near me.
Okay.
And I was still in the venue, like, I don't know, I was backstage gathering something or whatever, and you came like running in, like out of breath, to tell me like somebody liked our stuff, somebody wants to record, and I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Breathe, man.
Really?
So from my perspective, it was way funnier because you sounded like a psycho person, like out of breath. Pretty sure it was raining outside, and you're like, somebody likes our stuff and they want to record us. Yeah,
Oh, that's great. Okay, cool. No, I don't remember that part, but
Yeah.
I just remember talking, to this person, and I guess she was an intern at a record or a recording studio in like Burnaby.
the Hive, I think it was called.
Yeah. So it was a cool place. Like I think Dan Mangan had recorded there.
Oh, yeah.
A couple other like cool, famous local musicians. So that was a lot of fun. And honestly, like after we did all that, like the weekend that we were there was like still one of the best weekends of my
Sick.
life. It was fun. We recorded an EP. It was a completely like new experience. And then we got to hear like the tracks, and they sounded terrible.
They sounded like every band's first attempt at recording ever.
Yeah.
Like it was, I mean, we weren't that talented.
No.
The gear was there to make us sound good.
Yeah.
But we were also recording with somebody that was learning how to record.
Correct.
So, like we had all the tools there that a professional band and studio would use. So we got the full experience.
Yeah.
We weren't good, and the person was learning.
Yeah, we had all the tools available. We just didn't have the experience. So, needless to say, those songs are not on any streaming platform. I think the only location do you have a copy of them?
I think I do on my old iPod, which doesn't turn on anymore.
See, that's exactly it. They are on my iPod Classic,
but
nowhere else.
I remember Alan putting them on, or putting at least one of them on YouTube. And I think if you search the right things, I think you'll find it, because I remember watching it like under a year ago. So it's out there. And also, here's the other thing as well. Alan, because he was the one distributing the songs. Bandcamp, that's the website, right? That's a website?
Yep.
Okay, so I think it was on Bandcamp. Alan put our songs on there, and I guess he didn't realize, like, when you're putting music on there, that you can set the price to 0.
Right.
So he set the price to like $10, and our mutual friend Ty purchased it.
No.
Yeah, he did. Or unless he lied to me, like,
oh my god,
Ty purchased these shitty songs for $10. Like,
oh no,
think what you can get with $10 out of places.
Ty, you're a real one.
Shout out to Ty.
That's so fun. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's so funny. So they might exist on Bandcamp for $10. They might. Hi, me again. Guess what? The album was actually $7. And I paid for it just to out ourselves and prove how amateur these recordings were. And oh boy, Tina was right. Amateur is putting it lightly. I think some of the sections were pretty solid. As I was going through it, there was a lot of good stuff, but a lot of stuff not so much. So I've taken probably my favorite section of the whole EP just to listen to, just for the first little bit. The song was called Leave This Place. It's a little bit more on the heavy side, but I think technically sound, it was pretty good. So just in terms of the actual music, here's the beginning part of Leave This Place, which is a very common theme for many pop punk bands, which we'll probably explore later on in the series. So needless to say, with all that together, we have some level of experience when it comes to talking about this kind of thing.
Correct.
We are definitely the armchair music experts.
Yeah. And also, like, I think, I don't know, to get like a little sidetrack or whatever, like, you and I, like, this isn't our first attempt at doing a podcast before. I think we both have like a passion for recording things.
Yeah.
And so, like, whatever, like, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But like, let's chat about the music genre that we love, especially because, like I mentioned before, it's sort of rebirthed and it's back in popularity. And I've been dying to talk to somebody about Machine Gun Kelly.
Right. And
which we will get into.
Yeah.
Maybe not right now.
That deserves its whole episode.
Yeah.
Whether or not it ruined the genre. He ruined the genre. But yeah, no, that's exactly it. So I think it's going to be a good time. But I mean, like, obviously one of the things that brings all this together is a love and passion for music. So again, if you're a music lover, you know, this would be a great opportunity to kind of jump into the genre, right? One that you've never maybe listened to before, experienced, or you do listen to pop punk, or like you're a big Green Day fan or whatever, and you never really kind of branched out into that, right? What I'm hoping is this can kind of open the doors a little bit for people who are just like completely new into it and can expand their horizons, and, you know, hopefully again for us too, right? So as a little bit again of a backstory, like, of our bands and how we got into music, obviously the genres that we listened to growing up played a big part in that as well. So you know, what was your kind of dominant genre growing up, and how did it kind of merge into pop punk? Because that's like one of the things that's super interesting to me, is like how somebody gets to listen to the type of music that they listen to, right? You listen to like the craziest things ever. Like you listen to Death Grips, and it's just like, how do you get there, right?
Yeah. Do you remember? I mean, like, I think you told me on the original show. Do you remember your entrance into pop punk?
Yeah. It was going over to my cousin's house again. Shout out Kale. And him and my other cousin Kaylin, right, their brother and sister, like they had that music side that they were really into, like the indie, you know, at the time we were scene kids, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, there was a lot of bands that like they introduced me to, because like of course at the time as like a youngin', right, it was all just what your parents were listening to on the radio. So it's the country music with my dad, and then it's like the Kiss FM, the classic hits with,
For me, it was the Beatles or the Bare Naked Ladies, and pretty much nothing else.
nice. I see. I didn't have that classic rock like introduction. But so that's why it was so cool to listen to something like a completely new like genre, like different style of music, because I had no idea what else it was. And then so yeah, I had his iTunes library, and I was just like, ooh, cool music. I just downloaded his whole iTunes library.
Yeah.
So that was part of it too. And then I'm also remembering the CD story. Right?
Did Playing in the Dirt?
Yeah. So that was another one too that kind of like wow, there's like a bunch of other music out there, crazy.
Yeah.
I was at a townhouse that we were living in. We were just like playing outside and stuff, and I found like this scratched up nasty CD that just had like something hits on it, right? So I was like, cool, free CD, right? And this is like before like malware and stuff, where you don't plug a USB into a computer. But because I had portable Walkman, right?
Yeah.
Plug the CD, pop the CD in there, close it, get your headphones on, and some of the songs that were on there was definitely Blink-182's "I Miss You." Some of the other songs escape me. I really wish I still had that CD.
That should kind of give you an idea of like the era or the time frame we're working with. If "I Miss You" by Blink was on there.
Oh, Green Day was on there. It was "Warning" by Green Day. Never heard that song before, and I really liked it, and that got me like, oh, I love Green Day now.
Yeah.
So there's a couple other Green Day songs on there, like Basket Case was on there too. So that was like, oh, it was so good. So when American Idiot came out, like I think I got it for my birthday or something, and I'm like, best album ever, right? Loved it. So that kind of threw me into that as well. So then that, with the combination of like all the different types of music that my cousin listened to, everything like that. Like in grade 8, it was like Boys Like Girls.
Oh,
right? I wouldn't really call that like pop punk. It might have been. Some of it was maybe, but
I would almost call Boys Like Girls like. Would that classify as emo?
Absolutely.
Because this is another discussion that we will eventually get into.
Yeah.
Is like pop punk and emo. Are they the same thing? Are they different?
Yeah.
Who's to say? But continue.
So yeah, that was out there. So like Boys Like Girls, like, you know, that was a big hit for the emo and the scene kids, right? So we saw them. I saw them in concert. And who opened for them was The Format, Motion City Soundtrack, and another band. I'm trying to remember who, but anyway, so that was another introduction to Motion City Soundtrack, right? My favorite band, hands down my favorite band. So that, again, it just opened up the gates, and then you just keep listening to more, keep experiencing more, you go to more concerts. So that's the thing I love about this type of music and this type of genre, is that you go to a concert, you're not going to a big arena, you're not going to see any of those things. It's a smaller venue, it's a little bit more intimate, and it's more crazy when the mosh pits happen.
Way more crazy.
So that was a lot of fun. And then, did I ever tell you how I got reintroduced to Motion City Soundtrack?
Reintroduced? I didn't know you ever. So you like fell out of it.
Well, I didn't know that I liked them.
Oh.
So
like you didn't know it was them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like 2004.
Okay.
West 49 opens in Coquitlam Center. Grand opening, and they're handing out like free merch and stuff or whatever, and like mixed CDs and, you know, lanyards and stuff. And I get a mixed CD from Epitaph Records.
Okay.
So Epitaph Records, you know, obviously one of the bands on there was Motion City Soundtrack. There was this one song that I liked out of everything else. It was called Capital H.
Okay.
By Motion City Soundtrack. I'm not going to sing it. It's not good.
Didn't know that was an option.
No. And then so I listened to that on that mix CD, and then of course it's a mix CD, right? You get a lot. You lose it with everything else. I don't really remember. So that concert that I just mentioned, they're opening for them. And again, I have no idea who this band is. And they play Capital A.
No way.
And I'm like, oh my God, I love this song. I love these guys. So like bought a CD immediately after.
That's like a storybook ending.
Right?
That's so sick.
Yeah. So that really helped kind of solidify, like, you know, this is it. This is it. So many other bands that I got introduced to, again, just honestly from seeing concerts, right? The opening bands, it's so awesome. So that's kind of my interest in like how I got so involved with the genre and why I wanted to play drums. Like I could play the entire American Idiot soundtrack on drums, like
Still?
front to back. I don't know about still, maybe. Probably not as well, but
yeah,
that's kind of how, you know, where we get into the music aspect of that, playing it, right? Because you listen to it so much, you want to, you know, experience some of those same things. So you know, that's why I think we specialize in this category so much, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think it's like, you know, like when you're growing up, like you're sort of looking for an identity a little bit, and like it's all the weird kids, it seemed like gravitate to this sort of genre. So yeah, I don't know. I there's so many appealing corners or aspects to it or whatever that, you know, like it's hard to not be drawn in. And, you know, like we talked about on the previous version of the show, and we've talked about like off air, like a ton and stuff, like with it coming back, like you're seeing, like it's kind of cool to see like this new age of kids that are finding this music, for even if it's like not the same version of it that we grew up with or whatever, but also like people that are our age and even older or like younger, give or take a few years or whatever, like they're kind of like coming back. It's like,
oh yeah,
I always used to tell people, like when I was describing my taste in music to somebody who doesn't really know me that well, I always said, like, remember that music that you would listen to in like 2007 that you grew out of? Like I never grew out of it. So that's what I listened to or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's funny because now like I have all these friends that like 5 years ago, they would only listen to country, for example, like if we're out somewhere or whatever. And then like now it's like if they are in charge of the music, all of a sudden it's like they're the ones putting on a Blink song, or, you know, like there's like a Simple Plan song playing or whatever, and they're like, you see them like they're quietly like singing the lyrics and like tapping their foot, and you're like, we're back, baby.
Yeah.
We're back.
Yeah, and I totally agree, right? So imagine you're like a late 20s, early 30s, some on millennial who's like, you got a family now, you got a desk job or whatever it is, and like, what are you playing on your car ride over to work? What are you listening to the earbuds, right?
You're influencing like potentially a whole new like era, like
right?
just playing music on the way to school.
And so for those deadheads who think that the genre is dead and it's gone, it's not.
Yeah, and you know what? It's probably gonna die like in a handful of years, like every genre does. But you know what? Give it 20 years, it'll be back again. So honestly, shut up, everybody who says it's dead.
It'll show up in a different way for sure. Like, I mean, like the sad emo rap was a huge thing, like 2016, 2017. I mean, still a lot of it is. Yeah. But generally, it's like the same kind of feelings, right? And that's kind of one of the things that I think we talked about at the old and the other, you know, version of the podcast. But one of the things that obviously, like, why do we gravitate towards this music so much versus everything else, right? Like, why not just top 40 music? Why this music?
Yeah, it's a great question.
So what's your answer?
Oh yeah, you want an answer too? Yeah, I don't know. Like I think, like I said before, like when you're growing up, like you're sort of looking for an identity a little bit. And I don't know. I've even in present day, but also like especially when I was younger, like I don't know, man. Like the top 40 stuff for me, like some of it's catchy for sure. Like man, Timber or whatever by Kesha comes on, and I'm like sprinting to the dance floor, and I'm whatever, but. It's so repetitive and it's so like, I don't know, it gets kind of boring. I wanted something different. And you could always argue that every genre has songs that are the same or that are repetitive. Like pop punk, you could say is repetitive. Like it's the same shit. Yeah. You could say the same with country. You could say the same with like classic rock. You could say the same with like whatever. But for me at the time when I was growing up, like it was very much the era of, you know, like we were just coming out of like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears and like Nelly Furtado and all these things that were always on the radio and sounded like, you know, like pretty comparable. And, you know, then I heard a Sum 41 song. I heard In Too
Right.
Deep, but I was like, okay. And then I saw the music video, and I was like, this is pretty crazy. And then you see more and more, and you listen, just like you said, like you explore more and more and stuff, and then you're like, okay, this is kind of where I belong. And you start to see like what other people are like that listen to this kind of music, and you're like, okay, like I actually like get along with you. Like, what else are you about, kind of thing. So yeah, I don't remember what the original question was.
It's just like why this genre versus like something else, right?
Yeah.
So just like you mentioned, it's like relatability, right?
Yeah.
When you're looking for an identity or whatever, like you're looking for something to relate to, right? So when you hear those top 40 musics or the top 40 songs, and they're just like, yay, having fun, or going out and, you know, having fun with friends, and like when you're kind of like I guess like more of an emo kid, like at the time what it was, right? Or maybe you are somebody who's young and struggling with like mental health issues or like things like depression, right? You look for, again, those things to kind of idolize and latch onto, and like the lyrics in some of these songs, again, it was mainly the emo songs, right? You hear it and you're like, yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
That's me. Like, that's exactly what I'm going through. So you get somebody who recognizes and understands. So that's kind of where like the top 40 stuff just didn't fit in the mix. Right. So yeah, just whatever it is, those lyrics or whatever, right? We're always looking for something to latch onto. So the fact that like we're still going for it, like after all these years, right? It's so great. And honestly, no other genre gets me as energized.
Yeah.
Like, every time I hear came out swinging,
Oh my God.
right? Like every time I just like,
Yeah.
we went when we saw the Wonder Years live, right?
Oh my God.
And I was saving my energy because I know they're playing Came Out Swinging.
Yeah. You know they're gonna close with
I
it.
know they're closing with it.
Yeah.
I'm saving all the energy for the last bit.
Yeah.
And
What a show.
what a show. Yeah, exactly. So honestly, no other music gets me as energized as this type of music.
Yeah, I agree. So should we sort of go into a little bit more of like what we can expect to like the layout of the show, or like
Yeah.
should we present that a little bit? So yeah, we're just gonna kind of do this, or the plan is to I don't know, do this like bi-weekly, I think was what we settled on before. I don't think this is going to be a weekly show necessarily, just because, you know, we have stuff going on as well.
We have full-time jobs.
Full-time jobs, ladies and gentlemen. We're almost 30 years old. So.
And really one of the reasons why we're doing this, so we can quit this and just quit our jobs and just do this full-time, right?
That would be ideal. And you know what, like I went to broadcasting school, so we're in the realm of this is what I went to school for, baby.
Not at all what I went to school for.
So yeah, we're gonna aim to do this like bi-weekly. I think before we came on, or before like we hit record, I said like what do we say, like unorganized shit show or whatever, loosely something shit show or whatever. Loosely structured shit show. So that might be the mantra of the entire show. So on occasion we'll reach out to guests, try to get some interviews in person and online. The previous version of the show, there was like a video game version of it as well, or addition to the show. I think that will make an appearance here and there. It's not going to be as prominent as it was on the previous version, just because, as mentioned before, like we have full-time jobs. We don't necessarily have the time to be able to do what I was doing at the time when I was a full-time student. You know what I mean? Like, so
it could be like a mini series. And actually funny story about that, because somebody went to high school with like their significant other. We were out for dinner with them, and I was like, this is just before I went on your show. Yeah. So this guy, again, he's the 30 some odd millennial who's got a daughter, right? And I let him know that like, hey, I'm going, I'm just going on my buddy's show. It's a pop punk. And he's like, pop punk? Oh. He's like, tattoos. He's like, oh, the tattoos, right? And he's like, you listen to pop punk? I'm like, yeah, dude, it's like the best genre. He's like, me too. It's the best. He was in a band as well. And then I was like, and there's also gonna be like a video game segment too. And he's like, video games?
Why didn't I have this guy on the show?
He's like, this is like just checking all the boxes. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like those two things like really go
hand in hand. Yeah.
Right?
I don't really think I've met anybody. Well, that's not entirely true. I think for the most part, like all of my friends that I met and made throughout the genre of pop punk were oftentimes like equally as into video games as I was, and I think a lot of it was like vice versa. And I'm not necessarily talking about like I play a lot of like the sports video games, so like obviously like the friends that I've made through like that aren't necessarily into pop punk as well, but like the people that I know that are into like kind of like the weird video games that I was into, or like the story based video games or whatever, like a lot of the times we're also into. It's like they almost went hand in hand.
Yeah.
Like if you're into pop punk, like you're probably into playing some video games.
Yeah.
And if you're into a certain kind of video game, you're probably also into pop punk as well.
Yeah.
So
it might make an appearance.
yeah, it'll probably. I'll go out on a whim here and say like it will make an appearance eventually. It just won't be as frequent as it was previously. So what that was before, like the segment was called Gamers Galore. It was. At the time I was the only host, so I would just reach out to the guests, ask for, hey, like what's a video game that you play that you like love, that it like influenced you in some way or just like holds some special place in your heart. They would give it to me. I would record myself play it, and then I'd edit the video into some like 7 to 10 minute thing, and we'd watch it live on the show together, and everyone else that was viewing could watch it as well, and it was really fun. So, yeah, that will make an appearance at some point. Probably not going to write it on the calendar because we don't have any real planning. We're sort of making it up as we go. And
well, again, there's some sort of structure.
Yeah, there is structure. I mean, I sort of
loose.
Yeah, I mean, like,
structure.
yeah, you know what I mean, though. Like, I'm not going to write the Gamers Galore on the calendar because we're not necessarily.
But also, I feel like the episodes are going to be structured from what happens like after, like once this goes out, once you're listening to this, right? Because there's a lot of people with a lot of good ideas.
Yeah.
Right? So all the interaction is going to be like super key. So any comments or shares or whatever you want to see, right, we'll be more than happy to kind of talk about. Because again, for me, like it would be, it's nice to. I want an outlet for a genre of music that I really like, and there's I looked online, right? There's not a whole lot out there. There's some out there. But again, we have the creative freedom to kind of do what we want to do and make sure that, this can be the most, somewhat professional, and something that people want to keep coming back to. So
yeah, and I think I kind of want to walk back when I say like we're making it up as we go. We do sort of have a plan. So like we're not gonna come and do an episode and just like, hey man, how was your day? And then sit there and wonder what we're gonna say next. We will come into the episodes like with a plan and a structure and themed episodes. And if we decide to like make seasons like we've discussed before, like having like a themed season, so we'll. In that regard, we're sort of making it up as we go, but there will be structure to the show, so don't worry. We're not just going to be rambling on about nothing for an hour at a time.
It's the first episode.
What
can you expect?
So that's sort of the story of us, how we know each other, the history of the show, and what you can sort of expect to see with the show as we move along here. So for everybody that's come by and that listens, thank you very much for listening. We hope you continue to come back. Colton, do you want to tell them about our socials?
Okay, socials, the lifeblood of every podcast. Pretty much everywhere will be just Pop Punk Power Hour. We'll be most active on TikTok, Instagram, and Discord. That's right, we'll have a Discord server. Find our IG and join the community there. It's probably going to be the easiest way to get a hold of us and join the discussion. Big shout out to the band Chief State for letting us use their music. Please go listen to them. They rock. So on behalf of Tino and myself, thanks for letting us be a part of your day, and we'll catch you in the next one.